Hello, my peoples. Well, today's vlog, I am going to be talking about after my second son, which is when things started getting a little bit harder for us, meaning me and my ex-husband, with arguing to fighting about stupid stuff. But once I had my second son, I ended up starting to get attached mentally and physically to the Loratabs because they were helping me get through my days quicker, easier, and being able to handle 2 kids. And at the time, I was only 21 with 2. When I had my second son, I had a little bit of issues with dilating. I found out that I couldn't have kids naturally. I had to have cesarean, which is when they cut you open and take the baby out. So, after my second C-section, they sent me home with pain meds. Of course. Well, my husband was going through his pain meds a lot quicker and a lot faster than I was with mine. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if he's going through his and trying to take mine, why not just take up mine so that way he can't? Like, I would take mine about the same as him. That's what started the whole full-on addiction to pain meds. Well, we dealt with things, we handled it. We were okay for the time being. We both worked, so we could afford it. He would sit there, and by the end of the month, we would end up having to buy pain pills. So that way we didn't go through withdrawal with having the kids. I couldn't, because if I was going through withdrawal, I couldn't be there for my children. Well, I want to say maybe... Sorry, the sun is a little bit out right now, so it's affecting my eyes. After that, it was okay for the next couple years. It was 4 years, and then I ended up getting pregnant again with my first daughter. After I got pregnant with my first daughter, that's when everything changed. From okay and really good to flat out, nope. That was I would say, the beginning of my addiction. Because if I didn't have my pain pills, I was going out to look for other things that would help. So, when I went into the hospital to have my daughter, they hit where in the back when they did the epidural, they kind of missed at least a good 8 times before they actually got in. to where they were supposed to. Well, where they got in, where they were supposed to, was where my 2 herniated discs were. So, I felt my whole cesarean. I felt them pull the baby out, my daughter. I felt them cutting into me. I ripped the straps. If any mothers that are watching this knows about what a cesarean is or has had one, they will know that those straps are very hard to get out of. They're like this. Your arms are out so that way the blood can flow through and everything's okay. Well, I ripped both straps out to lean my body up. Because when you're in pain, you tend to tense and pull a little bit. Even after both me and my ex-husband told the doctors, I was still feeling it. I was pure white. Now, if you guys can't tell, I have olive skin color. I get really, really dark during the summer. Right now, it's starting to fade because it's coming into fall. Well, the doctor told me it was impossible for me to feel it. Well, that was the anesthesiologist that said that. The doctor said, well, she's pure white. Her vitals are going down and she's about to crash. So they said once they take the baby out, they'll put me under to stitch me up. They put me under for 5 minutes. What was the point of that? Because they wake me up afterwards anyways so I can see my daughter. Well, after that happened, I started getting pain in places that you're normally not supposed to. So once I got out of the hospital is when I started getting into the pills more and more, where I would take anything just to get rid of the pain. And I think it's more of the emotional and mental pain that I was hiding from because of my ex-husband. So, after I was released and everything else, again, our relationship was okay for the time being. It got to the point where within a year, we ended up living in an apartment together. We were doing good. And then CPS came. They said it was an endangerment to the kids because my oldest had health issues from being preemie. He had asthma. Yes, we caused part of it because of smoking, which is never a good addiction to get attached to begin with. It sucks. We ended up having the school call on us because my son missed too many days of school. Never once have I abused my kids because they are my life. Up until I got my kids taken, I wanted to be a school teacher. I love kids. I love educating them. I love having them smile over something fun that is so easy to do. Why not? Well, the school determined that my son having asthma attacks during the night and staying home wasn't a suitable reason of him not going to school. They have a nurse for that, as they would say. They don't have an actual physician or a doctor. So a nurse is just an assistant. I'd rather have my kid be safe than sorry. Just my view. Everybody has their own. To each his own. I've always said that. Well, after the school called, they came and they deemed my house unfit for my children over a foosball table being on my kitchen table drying because we had fixed it and glued the chair back or the leg back on. They said that it wasn't good enough, it shouldn't have been there. Okay, well, my kids know right from wrong. They know better than to pull something like that. It's not going to happen. I'm always there watching. I had OCD about the kids hurting themselves to begin with, which the person did not know that. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know how I acted. They assumed. So, we had to make the ultimate decision. Either the kids go to foster care or go to a family member. They gave us 15 minutes to decide who our kids were going to go with. So obviously, my parents lived a distance away, but they wouldn't be able to get to the house in 15 minutes. So it was his parents, because they lived 4 houses around the corner. So we took him to his parents. That's where they ended up. That is when all hell broke loose, I would say, because neither one of us could handle it the right way. That's when we started to experiment with other things. It wasn't easy. It felt like my life was getting ripped apart. And torn against everybody, or against me and him. So, me and my ex-husband tried crack cocaine. An old friend who is no longer a friend offered it to us to try. So of course, we had no responsibilities. Why not? Everything was taken that we cared about. Didn't bother us. Worst decision of my life. And I'm glad I can say that now. So, once that started, we kind of liked it. I guess, because we would have stopped if we didn't. And at that point, I drew a line to that was the only harsher drug I was going to ever try or ever do. To be my despise, nope. But that's for another story. For now, we got bad into it to where my ex-husband's brother was an informant for a police department and knew that we were doing this because we were buying pills off of them and buying pills for them when we could. Well, that's when everything started going downhill. Marriage, ethnically, morally, everything. We ended up getting into it pretty bad to where we drove around just to smoke before we would go see our kids. And it was hard for me to go see my kids. Just because at that point, I was already known as retardica, or retard, or slowka. They would mentally abuse me with every name in the book. Slut, or, excuse my language, but yes. So it got harder and harder to go see my kids, knowing that every time I was going to go over to go visit them, instead of being able to pay attention to them, his dad would make me pay attention to him by saying all of these things to me. Well, I slowly stopped visiting as much as I should have, just because mentally I couldn't handle it. Emotionally, I couldn't handle it. It was that hard on me. But my ex-husband would go and see them because it was his parents. They never downgraded him once. They praised him pretty much for dealing with me. So, eventually we ended up moving a couple different places. We've lived with friends, family. We've lived in a garage. One of those, like, storage places where it was only 10 by 13, or no, 5 by 13, I think it was, or something like that. It was really small. It only fit our bed, and then all of our stuff was around it. We've lost so many garage spaces before. I've lost every momentum that I had as a child that my parents gave us when I first got married. A lot of things went downhill, and I could never realize why. I got mentally wrapped into my parents were bad. All they were controlling. All they want to do is control my life. They never wanted to do anything for me. So I wasn't allowed to talk to my parents. I wasn't allowed to see them. I wasn't allowed to have the kids see them. Once they got with my ex-husband's parents, my parents were no longer allowed to see my children or know who they were. Well, it was about 3 years after we ended up losing the kids that things started going downhill. My ex-husband started getting more possessive, more demanding. It got bad. I'm gonna make another video of things I've had to do for the drugs, things I've got talking into to get the drugs. None of it's pleasant, but this is what happens when you let drugs control your life. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And I know that for a fact because it was about 4 years after my daughter was born, my first daughter was born, my ex-husband left me. But I was doing pretty good with not smoking crack. Once my ex-husband left me, I stopped smoking crack. I stopped doing things for it. And instead, I would get Suboxone off the street, which is something to help get off of drugs. Well, it was about 4 years after we lost the kids that my ex-husband decided he wanted to leave me because, according to him, I was always cheating on him, which I never did. I don't believe in it. I don't respect it. If you're going to be with somebody, you're going to be with them and nobody else. I've always wholeheartedly did that. And I don't believe in it, but he always accused me of it. So he left me. He made me pack my stuff and move out of his sister's house because that's where we were staying at the time. And he figured because it's his sister, I'm not supposed to be there. Well, like I said before, my brother, somebody that I've always considered a brother, took me in and said, you know what, there's a couch. It's all we can do, but hey, it's somewhere. That was more than just somewhere. It was family. It was comfortable. And after 12 years of marriage down the drain, mentally, he was able to help me a little bit. Well, 2 weeks after he pretty much kicked me out and didn't want to be with me no more, I found out I was pregnant again. Like always, whenever we got into an argument or a disagreement to where we were going to end our marriage, pregnancy got in the way. Well, this time it didn't. So, after me and my ex split is when shit hit the fan, I would say. But with that note, I will tell you guys tomorrow and let you guys know what happened after the shit hit the fan. I love you. Stay bubbly. Stay clean. Stay awesome. Peace.